This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to tackle one of the biggest, most difficult concepts in all of philosophy, Hegel's absolute idea. But what if I told you it's not some abstract mystery, but something else entirely? So let's start with a really provocative question. For hundreds of years, everyone's treated Hegel's work as the highest form of abstract thinking. But what if we've been reading the map all wrong? What if it's actually a user manual, a blueprint for how to run a government? First, let's talk about the man himself, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. If you've ever dipped a toe into philosophy, you know this guy's reputation. He's an absolute giant, a genius, but he's also famously, incredibly, mind-bendingly complex. His whole deal was creating these massive systems of thought that tried to explain, well, everything. And because he's seen as so brilliant, his work can be a really tough nut to crack. And at the very, very peak of that mountain of complexity is the thing we're trying to figure out today, his great enigma. You know, traditionally, the absolute idea is presented as this super obscure metaphysical thing. It's supposed to be the final moment in his system where thought finally understands itself completely. It's the grand finale, right? A concept so abstract it feels like it only exists in the clouds. But what if that's not the whole story? To get to the bottom of this, we actually can't just stay in the world of pure ideas. We have to look at the real world Hegel was living in. And it turns out the political situation in 19th century Prussia gives us our first massive clue. So picture this. It's the early 1800s. The Prussian state is changing, and it's changing fast. It's building up this powerful, centralized government, a modern bureaucracy. And to do that, it desperately needed a unifying idea, a kind of official philosophy to get everyone on the same page and to justify its own power. And then, almost as if on cue, along comes Hegel. Now, he wasn't a politician, not at all, but his philosophical system, it turned out to be exactly what the Prussian state was looking for. It gave them a complete, rational, all-in-one system that could act as the intellectual backbone for a modern government. It was, you could say, a perfect match. And this is where it gets really fascinating. Because when you put Hegel's philosophy next to the actual structure of the Prussian state, the parallels are just undeniable. It stops looking like a coincidence and starts looking a lot more like a blueprint. Okay, take a look at this. This table is where the whole idea really clicks into place. The argument here is that this isn't just some loose comparison. No, each major part of Hegel's abstract system maps directly onto a concrete part of the Prussian government. It's a one-to-one correlation, from the way ordinary people think all the way up to the king himself. Let's just break that down a bit. So at the very bottom, you've got Hegel's logic. In this interpretation, it's not just a dense book on philosophy. It becomes the basic operating system for the entire country, installed in every citizen through public education. It's the shared mental software that makes sure everyone is thinking and reasoning in a way that's compatible with the state. Then you move up a level. What about his philosophy of right? Well, if logic is the OS for the citizens, this is like the specialized application software for the government employees, the bureaucrats. It's the detailed code, the set of rules and principles they use to actually run the country and turn the state's goals into laws. So you see what's happening here? Philosophy, especially that final highest part of the system, isn't just some abstract peak of knowledge. It's a direct mirror. It's a reflection of the state's highest level of authority, the very place where the ultimate decisions get made. Okay, so we've got all the pieces on the board. We can see the map of how the philosophical system lines up with the state. Now we can finally crack the code on the biggest mystery of all, the absolute idea itself.
So let's just ask the question straight up. If this entire philosophical system is a mirror of the state, then what on earth is the absolute idea? In real-world, practical, political terms, what is it?
Well, it's not a thing. It's a process. It's the actual workflow of the Prussian government. Imagine a new policy idea. First, it has to work its way up through that entire bureaucracy we talked about. It gets analyzed by scientists, reviewed by lawyers, and then finally, it lands on the desk of the king for the final stamp of approval. And that final sanctioned decision, that becomes the will of the state. And this quote just says it all perfectly. The absolute idea isn't some ghost in the machine. In this view, it is the final policy of the state. It's an idea that's been tested, processed, and validated by the entire government machine, and then made real by the king's signature. It's literally an idea becoming law, an idea becoming will.
So let's pause for a second and just think about how huge this is. This interpretation doesn't just explain Hegel, it totally changes how we might think about the relationship between big ideas and real-world power.
Really, the single biggest thing to take away from all this is that massive shift in perspective. We're dragging the absolute idea out of the clouds of metaphysics and planting it firmly on the ground of politics. It's not about the universe knowing itself, it's about a government making a final, binding decision.
And why does this matter now? To us, because it's a powerful reminder that even the most complicated, abstract-sounding systems of thought can have a very real, very concrete job to do. They can be used as the intellectual architecture to build, justify, and maintain actual political power.
And that leads us to a pretty provocative final thought. If Hegel's philosophy could be seen as a hidden blueprint for the Prussian state, well, what are the hidden blueprints of our time? What modern ideas, or economic theories, or even technological systems might be quietly structuring power in our world right now?
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.